Hi there, everybody. Hear me all right? So we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk about a more project-related topic. Silver Tigre Metals has one and only project, and that is El Tigre Silver and Gold. And that is located in Sonora, Mexico. Forward-looking statements. Don't believe everything I say. As I mentioned, the project is located in Sonora, here, about 85 clicks away from the U.S. border. Agua Prieta is the closest town by driving. Our technical services team are located in Hermosillo, Mexico, about 250 clicks away. And yeah, obviously Sonora is a big state for mining in Mexico. So this here is a slightly inclined view of our concession pointing to the north. The yellow lines show the concession boundaries here. And I want to point out that we have over 35 kilometers of concession along the strike of the vein system, which is north-northwest. In 2016, Silver Tigre Metals acquired 28,000 hectares of concessions. And then a few years later, in 2019, purchased 6,000 hectares here in the white. And that is where all of our project economics are based, on owned land. That means that the entire project is 100% owned and royalty-free, and there is, most importantly, no ejido. And I'll point out some other things here on the map. We have a nearby water source, okay? The CFE substation is located near La Caridad mine, which is only 40 kilometers away from the project. And then if you look around, you know, this is elephant country, right? We have a lot of good deposits in the area. And of a side note, the governor of Sonora's hometown is here in Bavipsi to the east of the project. Always good to have. So for those of you that aren't familiar with the Silver Tigre's El Tigre project, we just closed a $15 million bought deal financing last week. So that's great because the stock market just took a crash and we are all cashed up for development as that comes. 150 kilometers of drill core on the property. Silver Tigre Metals did the bulk of that at 120 kilometers. The current infrastructure on the project is 400 meters of underground rehabilitation, and that was done on the old Lucky Tiger silver mine. And we're going to use that for the next stage as we develop into production. We've completed a 60-person man camp in 2020. We've completed a 46-kilometer access road from the town of Colonial Morales, which is located right here. The red line, so crudely drawn by me, shows the road. That's the new road we built in 2023. We also have an 800 ton per day mill on site and purchased from Bathurst, I believe. To give you a little history, Maiden MRE was released in 2017. There was another MRE released associated with the open pit PEA in 2023. And then lastly, in 2024, last year, we had a PFS, or pre-feasibility study, on that open pit mineralization. The next step, and I'll go into this further down the talk, is to deliver an underground PEA by the end of H1. Which is coming up. So to give you a little idea of where we are, I'm sure many of you know this, right? But we are on the northern tip of the SMO trend. It's over 2,000 kilometers long, and is the reason why Mexico is the largest silver producer in the world. El Tigre is one of the most northern. I won't say the most northern, but here's Agua Prieta and the border, obviously. Mineralization follows north-northwest structures over hundreds of kilometers, 2,000 to be exact. There's lots of deposits, Pinos Altos, Dolores, El Campo. And what's important about El Tigre, it wasn't mined out by the Spaniards in the 1500s. It was done by an American company, the Lucky Tiger mine, from 1900 to 1934. And here's a picture of the El Tigre mine, the Lucky Tiger mine. It certainly doesn't look like this now. This was a town of 5,000 people back in the day. Had its own railroad for transport. The tailings are actually down here, and that's part of our resource. A mill camp store, jail, church. You know, this is, actually Doug was just telling me this is the first place in Sonora that had power. So it was a significant district back in the day, and hopefully will be one day again. What's important here is, okay, so mining ended in 1934. It remained pretty inactive for the next 100 years, 75 years. Anaconda came in the 1980s, and they drilled 8,000 meters of core, 22 holes, sampling in the underground workings, et cetera, et cetera. But the most important thing they did for the project was compile all the historic mine plans, the samplings, and that was stored at the Anaconda libraries. And when we purchased the property, we went up there to Laramie and got all of that information, including 17,000 underground channel samples. Now, obviously, those aren't NI 43-101 compliant, but we're able to use that as a sort of chalk line, right? This is an isometric view of the three vein workings. Sui, El Tigre is the big guy, and the Sykes-Kelly kind of splays off here, but those are the stopes, the workings. And it gives us a foundation for exploration as we go forward in the property. Oh, just to give you some ideas, this was no small mine. It was almost 2 kilometers long strike, 450 meters deep, and that's in 15 mine levels. The biggest was El Tigre, the most prolific vein. And lastly, when you look at some of the production numbers, right, you have, you know, when you combine this, the 100 million silver equivalent ounces that came out of that mine in the 1900s. And the cutoff was pretty darn high at 40 ounce per ton. It's always nice to see. So this is a geologic model of the El Tigre geology, obviously. So right here, this is the Precambrian basement contact, this purple body. Over top of that is your lower SMO volcanics, shallowly dipping to the southeast, and then the veins cross-cut that in the north-northwest structure. Okay. Now the next slide I'm going to show you is a conceptual cross-section, because in reality what's happening here is you have multiple vein systems in series, right? But we are looking cross-section, all these pretty colored layers of cake are the different volcanic units. Every type of mineralization on the property is related to the epithermal vein systems. It's just the different rock types and their interaction with the vein that led to different ore types. So firstly, the one circled here, that is the epithermal vein, right, that the old timers mined out. Super high grade, silver rich as opposed to gold rich. This is the focus of the pre-feasibility study, the stockwork zone. And what happened here, the El Tigre formation was a very competent formation. It fractured very easily. And so when you had the epithermal vein system go up into this formation, it blossomed out in a flowering structure. Thirdly, we have the shale zone here. There's a carbonate layer property-wide. There was some hiatus in volcanic activity. You had a carbonate laid down where the veins cross-cut the carbonate. You have almost like little strips, 10 to 20 meters on each side, and they can be upwards of 15 meters thick, multi-kilo type ore. And lastly, the newly discovered, well, it's been 2 years, but I guess I can still say it, the newly discovered sulfide zone is at this granite contact, but associated with that vein again. And I'll go into more of these later on down the road here. We got 20 minutes left. Just to give you some nice pretty pictures of rocks, that's the stockwork zone. Hosted in the El Tigre formation, proximal to the veins, higher grade in the hanging wall, but still mineralized in the footwall. A lot of hematite alteration, increases as you get closer to the veins. It's a low grade ore, but it's open pitable, and it's about 60 million tons at surface. The epithermal veins that caused all this, right? You had a quartz carbonate, low sulfide ocean epithermal vein. The gold is associated with these sulfide, clots in the vein with cross structures. And so you get, actually our highest sample was 86 kilos silver equivalent. And that was the stuff that the old timers mined. The shale zone, and this is a nice picture I just took on site last week. It's almost like a replacement sort of deposit. I don't want to say that, but you can see the base metals, galena, chalcopyrite, pyrite, intruding along the planes of these shale layers. The carbonate was more reactive than the volcanics around it, and that led to mineralization proximal to the veins. And lastly, the sulfide zone. And you can see from this, it's not exactly massive sulfide, it's more disseminated or semi-massive, but equally impressive grades. All right, I'm not going to kill you with this. I made this chart and I want to roll my eyes, but just to give you an idea, the annotations on the side are really what I'm looking at. The stockwork zone, or the pit-constrained mineralization, that's about 165 million silver equivalent ounces. The veins in the underground, which wasn't the focus of this 2024 MRE, we're going to have a new MRE that comes out that are even better. That's about 113 million silver equivalent ounces. Okay, so in total you have darn close to more than 250 million silver equivalent ounces. The tailings from the old mine here, about 1 million tons at 1 gram per ton AU equivalent. And then lastly, we have a stockpile outside of the level 7 haulageway, 3 gram per ton, much smaller at 100,000. It gives us versatility down the line. When we want to ramp up the underground, we can supplement the underground material with tailings and the waste rock. Okay, so as I mentioned before, this talk is centered around the PFS that was completed on the property last year. I'll give you some numbers. I know it's a lot of numbers, but after-tax MPV at 5% was at 222 million, okay? The IRR is pretty strong at 40, and the payback period is only 2 years. 10-year mine life recovering 43 million payable silver equivalent ounces, so that takes into account recovery and all the other things. The total project after-tax cash flow is 320 million. And the great thing is, I like to describe this deposit as the Toyota Corolla deposits. It's the strong economics, and the capex is, 86 million. That's very low, and obviously that is an open pit mine. But the real plan is to develop this open pit mine, and take that money we make off the production and move into the underground where you need, 5 or 10 rigs. You have a lot more development costs, and the capital goes up. 18th month build, and our COO, Francisco Alvarez, likes to say 12, but we just be conservative with 18 here. And then annual production of 5 million silver equivalent ounces. And what's important to tie back here is during our last drilling campaign, we drilled off the 80% of the deposit at 25 meter spacings. So we have 3 years of production in the measured or proven category, which far exceeds that payback period, which is what people like to see. All those numbers based on gold prices of $2,150 and silver of $26. So we're kind of in this range. Silver quite hasn't caught up yet, but I'm sure it will. You're looking at double the cash flow and double the MPV. Payback goes down to 1.4. So something to keep in mind when you're looking at the numbers of the PFS. Okay, I'll quickly run through this. This is an isometric view of the pit. Okay, this is the starter pit, phase 1, years 0 through, or -1 through 3. The stripping ratio on this pit is 0.4. And we're basically mining air because of the topography, right? So the stripping ratio is 0.4. The average grade is 0.8 gram per ton gold equivalent. And I forgot to mention before, since we're higher up in the epithermal system, this tends to be more gold rich. So you have 2/3 of the value from gold and 1 from silver. And I'll point out the red because that's our measured or proven ore. So you really do see the provenance of it. Phase 2 goes to the south. And phase 3, overall, this is 2 kilometers, what you're looking at here. So the entire strike length of the pit's 2 kilometers. The stripping ratio is 1.7 for the whole pit, so that's very good as well. 1.7 is definitely not toast. And the average grade is 0.6, so certainly for Sonora, that works very well. All right, to go into some of this, I'm not an engineer, but this is the proceed plan for the pre-feasibility. We have the pit profile here. The haul road, or the lip of the pit where the road would go into, would wind down here to the crusher platform, where then you'd have the leach pad, the pools, and the waste dump. To give you an idea, obviously it's not how the crow flies because of the topography, but from here to here it's about half a kilometer. So it's all very close, not a lot of trucking, I guess you could say. So to give you an update, and I'm sure everybody has the same question, but when are you getting your mining permit? Yeah, I mean, you're going to get it when you're going to get it, but we have hopes because it's an amended permit, it will be easier than some other companies, and things have been moving along well with that regardless. In the meanwhile, we're arranging financing with the bankers. $86 million certainly isn't a game changer for them, so it's going well. The PEA for the underground, as I mentioned, expected at the end of H1 2025, and we're further drilling on the zones of the underground. If you guys remember that first title slide, that was the portal here. That's the level 7 haulageway that's been rehabilitated to 400 meters. We're drilling now from that area. And basically it comes down to you keep pushing the project and things will line up and you keep your head down and keep working. Okay, sulfide zone. I don't want to get too crazy with this, but we're going to talk a little about the sulfide zone. Super great grades, 38 meters at 400 gram per ton, fairly high grade. This is the discovery hole. We had 47 meters at 230 silver or 350 silver equivalent. This was a newly discovered zone back 2 years ago. Overall, 750 meters along strike, 300 along dip. And there's the level 7 haulageway. That's what we've rehabilitated too. So you can see, you obviously have to ramp down, but it's 100 meters between that and the top of the sulfide zone. So all very close to development and fairly easy. Okay, what I just showed you there, that was the sulfide zone. We're zooming out now on long section. Sulfide zone is associated with this granite contact. The main point of this slide is to show you guys we're not done. We just haven't drilled out the end of it, right? It's open to the north, the south, and at depth. Okay, that granite contact is property wide, that basement granite. Those veins we know are property wide. They go for 35 kilometers long strike. This shale zone, as I mentioned, is a property wide carbonate layer. We only have these little yellow blocks defined by drilling. So a lot of potential there too as we go down the road. That yellow dashed line is the bottom of the pit. You can see the old historical workings, the old assay results. This kind of gives you the blue sky potential of the near mine exploration as things move forward. Speaking of near mine, that was more underground the previous slide. This is more open pit potential. That yellow geologic body, the Tigre formation, is here. And you got to remember the topography is like, the mountains on this crest, but it's dipping to the southeast gently, so you kind of see layer cakes. The open pit mineralization that we have in the PFS is just here. You can see the veins also exist down here. That El Tigre formation as well. On the other side of the mountain where our claims are too, it exists. So there's a lot of potential for expansion of this open pit as we move down the line. Some of our photos from our underground drilling campaign going on. Nothing too much to say about that one. This was the old haulageway for the Lucky Tigre silver mine. So they had tracks on this, and it was actually filled with water by a rancher for cattle feed before. And then we got Kimimvi to come in and slash this to a 4.5 by 5 meter modern day haulageway or drift. And then we went 400 meters back into that, and at that point we decided that's a good drilling station and went from there. That's a very squished picture, but that is the finished product. You saw before, but this mine remained intact for almost 100 years, so the rock is very good. And those baskets aren't needed further down the drift, so everything's nice and tidy. Kimimvi's haul truck, or mucker. That's the El Tigre mine portal, or vent, generator, etc. Yeah, and contact me if you have any questions on the technical side. If you want to hear the marketing spiel, contact Devin. He's out of Toronto, so if any of you guys are there too. Our corporate offices are based in Halifax, but myself and the technical team are based out of Hermosillo, Sonora. Thank you. And I've left plenty of time for questions, so please shoot away. Okay, Dawn, you first. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I think you said before you're going to use the water reservoir as the main water source.
Right.
And how much water are you expecting? Are you expecting any water to go to the pit, or would it only be coming underground?
We'll see.
That you hit groundwater.
Right.
Okay, you better repeat that question, because if you couldn't hear it, no one else could either.
So she's asking, do we have any water in the open pit? And spoken like a true consultant. We do have piezometers set up by WSP, and what we see is the 17. I don't know if I can go back, but the level 7 where the water was blocked up. That is below the bottom of the pit. So when we have the piezometers running, which is all the time, we see very little groundwater, even seasonally change, which isn't great overall for water sourcing, but it is good for geotechnical parameters. I showed you the reservoir to the west, 15 kilometers. That would be the predominant source of water. But what we're doing at the same time is we have some claims over the Vivitsby area for aquifers. So we have two options, and we're testing both of those as we go through down the line. Sorry, I missed a hand over here. Yeah, Christian.
To evaluate the boundary, of the granite, the salt. Have you done your physical surveys to investigate, assess that boundary with the granite, looking for sulfide zones like the ones you already showed?
Yes. So initially when we got the property, we ran IPO over all of it, for the epithermal mineralization. But that helped us kind of define the granite contact at depth. Now what you see is, as you have a north-south trending fault. The granite or the sulfide zone is kind of deeper, but that's east side down. So west side up, you see the granite on surface. That granite isn't mineralized. It's a conjunction of granite vein and sometimes some limestone down there that really cause it. So what we have currently defined is still open along the north and south. But going forward, we've got the outcrop of the granite traced on surface, and we'll have to trace it with drilling next. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Very interesting geological setting. You have a 110-kilometer long active fault next to the vein. Mm-hmm. When the mine opens, how are you planning on coping with seismicity?
Yeah, I will say that there was two openings, the Johnny Crosscut and the historic level 7. There were no ground falls when we went under to rehab. That is in effect somewhat of the old mining techniques. But what I will say is, what the perceived mining plan for the PEA isn't 2 kilometers deep. It's shallow within the first couple hundred meters. So I don't think it'll be an issue. But then again, we're going through studies with WSP as we speak for these sort of geotechnical situations, looking at cable bolting, et cetera, and fracture sets. So, yeah, but good point. There is an active fault system in the area, but hopefully it won't play any big importance because we are fairly shallow and the rocks are competent. They are. Right. Yes.
Yeah, so on your PA or PFS, whatever it was, what was the mining rate that we were using? And it looked like it was going to be heap leach. What's the recovery?
Yeah, so we're currently at the PFS stage with the open pit. For the first 3 years, it's perceived to be mined at 7,500 tons per day. And at that point, 20 million of that 86 initial capital is used for an expansion to 15,000 tons per day. And then we run that to year 10, and that's the mine. So, yeah, 75 and 15,000. Anything else? Good. Okay. Well, thank you very much.